All right, joining me from just outside Washington is Changhua Wu. She is the CEO of the Beijing Future Innovation Center and Executive Director of the Professional Association for China's Environment. We've chatted quite a few times about climate change. I guess this is a prime example of what we're talking about, just this violent weather. I want to get your thoughts about what's happening there in China.
Well, I think the climate is changing, and with the global warming continues to intensify, and we're going to experience more and more such devastating natural disasters or extreme weather events. And it also actually puts the current efforts in terms of both mitigation and adaptation into a test. And generally speaking, I think we have failed, meaning whatever the adaptation efforts, the framework or system, as well as the infrastructure in place today, wouldn't be able to go through or survive such kind of level of or intensity, severity of extreme weather events. And that's definitely somehow becomes a major topic now of the day, actually, for decision makers to reflect and to re-examining the current adaptation strategy and efforts, not only at the national level, but also at a local level. And we just wouldn't be able to survive. And if we somehow don't really do enough, on one side, of course, to reduce emissions as soon as possible at the largest level possible. But in the meantime, we have to invest immediately in adaptation resilience so that we'll be able to manage and control or even prevent casualties and property losses.
Yeah, in terms of adaptation, China has these pilot projects of sponge cities, which are efforts to mitigate flooding by designing a more absorbent urban environment. I'm sure you can tell us a little bit more about that. We saw this massive flooding in Chongqing last year, now Zhengzhou. Do you think that China is really going to embrace this, probably accelerate the implementation of more sponge cities?
Well, as you said, actually, a sponge city happens to be one of the solutions, and particularly for urban areas, to really take into consideration of the nature. And because we all know the ecosystem of nature has its own way to regulate water flows, actually. And so now, actually, Sponge City is looking into like a green space as well as wetlands, among others, to make sure actually we not only to regulate the water, but in some cases actually to restore the rainwater and purify the water and turn the water into uses, actually, particularly in those sort of drought-hidden regions there. But Zhengzhou happens to be one of the pioneering cities, actually, in the Sponge City efforts, and it has been investing literally more, billions of dollars actually into that endeavor. I think the problem is, I think we are learning through the disaster, is that the design of the sponge city is mostly based on the data or evidence of the past. We call it historic data, right? If you look at the design of Zhengzhou in particular, it has taken into consideration of this sort of last 200 years, sort of, probability of such, the extreme weather events like flooding in particular. But somehow now we all realize Zhengzhou, the region, Henan, is experiencing one in more than 1,000 years sort of a hit. And so whatever the design at this moment of the sponge cities, not only Zhengzhou, but particularly many parts of the country wouldn't be able to accommodate actually such extreme weather events.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Changhua Wu, always a delight talking to you. Thanks so much for your insights. Really appreciate it.